Now let's have a look at the different systems in the human body. All right, let's start with the respiratory system. So the respiratory system is where gas exchange happens. So it's called the respiratory system because it basically gets what you need in order for respiration to take place. So respiration, don't forget, respiration happens in the cell, in the mitochondria of your body's cells, not in your lungs. But for some reason, they thought, let's call this the respiratory system because it brings in oxygen that you need for respiration, and it exhales carbon dioxide that respiration made. So it's basically respiration needs something, we take it in, and respiration made something we don't want, so we exhale it out. And that's the respiratory system. So we've got exhale and inhale. Okay, so the stuff we don't want, we exhale, and the things we want, we inhale. Okay, then we've got intercostal muscles. So inter means between. And then, so the intercostal muscles is the muscles in between the ribs. So it basically makes your ribs move so that, like, when your lungs expand when you breathe in, and it makes your ribs go, your ribs close in and become smaller, your chest cavity becoming smaller to force air out when you exhale. Then the other muscle we get is the diaphragm. Diaphragm is the muscle that's underneath the lungs. So here on this picture you can see it, it's that orange part, yellowish, orangish part underneath the muscles. So all of these muscles make your lungs smaller and bigger, and smaller and bigger while you are breathing. So if we're looking at where does the air go that you're breathing in? So when you breathe in, the air goes through your lungs, and then your pharynx, this word here, pharynx, is your throat. Then your larynx, here's the picture, is your voice box. Then your trachea is the pipe that goes down here. It's the one that's right in the front. You can feel it there. That is your trachea. Then the trachea splits up into two parts, which is the bronchi. So you can see here on the picture. So it splits into two bronchi, one that goes to your left lung and the other one to your right one. And then the bronchi splits up in bronchioles. So bronchioles is just tiny bronchi. And so they make little branches throughout your lungs. Then we've got the alveoli. Alveoli are little air sacs. I'm just going to show you here in this picture. See, there you can see the alveoli. And this whole, so around your trachea, we've got C-shaped cartilage rings. So you can look at this word here, cartilage rings. So it's basically hard rings that keeps the pipes open. So around your trachea, it's C-shaped, and then around the bronchi, it's O-shaped. So it goes around the entire bronchi. So those are cartilage rings to keep your the pipes open. So gas exchange, gaseous exchange, is basically how the gases swap. So in your blood, you've got the CO2, and in your lungs, you just inhaled a nice breath of oxygen. So then the oxygen and the CO2 basically swap, they exchange. And that happens through the process called diffusion. So capillaries are tiny blood vessels. So you can see here on this picture that the capillaries sort of, it's like tiny, that they branch off into lots of tiny veins that makes like a net around the alveoli. And then diffusion is the way that the air moves from a high concentration to a low concentration. So in your lungs, you've got a high concentration of oxygen that you just breathed in. So it goes from the high concentration in your lungs to the low concentration in your veins. And then the other way around with the CO2. So the carbon dioxide there's a lot of it in your the capillaries, and then it moves from the capillaries where there's a high concentration to your alveoli where there's a low concentration. So they basically swap. This word here, hemo. So hemo is a word with also lovely Latin phrases. Hemo is basically comes from some word that means blood. So anything that's got to do with blood, if you hear the word hemo, it's like got an A and an E in it, then you know, like, oh, that's got something to do with blood. And then, so it's hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is the red iron pigment that carries the oxygen. So let me just see if I can make a tiny O instead of a big O here by oxygen. Where is it? There we go. So then it is, hemoglobin is basically what makes the blood red, and it binds with the oxygen, and inside the red blood cells, remember the ones we said looks like this, and then they are the oxygen carriers. Okay, so that was the respiratory system. So breathing, basically. Breathing and exchanging gases. Then the circulatory system is how the blood circulates throughout your body. So here I've just got a picture of your whole body and how the blood circulates. We've got veins and we've got arteries. So arteries are blood vessels that moves away from your heart. So a artery away, and on diagrams we always make them blue. So let's take that blue so it's not too dark to see. A for away, arteries. And then so the arteries has oxygen in it, because when you are, so the blood that goes throughout your body needs oxygen. So the arteries, A for away, has oxygen in it. The only arteries that does not have oxygen is the one that goes to your lungs. So we call that the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary is anything that's got to do with the lungs. So the pulmonary article does not have oxygen. So here, look at this heart here. So, oh, I made it the wrong color. It's red. Sorry. Arteries are the ones that we make red because the red pigment, hemoglobin, carries the oxygen, so it has oxygen. So here you can see from this heart model here, we've got the red blood from the arteries, goes away from the heart. Here's one that goes to your lower body. Here's one that goes to your upper body. And then there's two that branches off that goes to your lungs. So they basically go to your lungs to go fetch the, no, oh, what am I doing? They come from the lungs with oxygen. Okay, so then the veins are the blue ones. They go towards your heart. So A for away, and veins go to the heart. And they have no oxygen in them. Again, except for the pulmonary one. So the one that goes to your lungs are the opposite. So let's look at the whole system. Here we've got your heart. Your heart pumps blood throughout your whole body with arteries. It gives away all the oxygen that it's got to your organs and to your cells, and then it comes back to your heart. Now it needs to go fetch oxygen from your lungs. So these veins collects all the blood from your all your organs, everything throughout your body. It goes to your heart, and then it goes from your heart, it gets pumped to your lungs to go fetch more oxygen. Then when they go back to your lungs, it is the arteries that has oxygen. So if they have oxygen, they come to your heart, and your heart goes pumping it throughout the rest of your body, so that it moves away from your heart. All right. So here, at this point where you've got capillaries, that is basically the where the blood, the gas exchange happens. So it swaps oxygen for CO2. Now let's have a look at that system with the capillaries. So arteries, we said, has oxygen, and it goes away from your heart. So this artery comes here, it's red because it's got oxygen, then it splits up into smaller pieces. So it splits up to smaller pieces so that it can get to everything, because the main artery just goes up and down and through your arms and through your legs. Then it needs to split up and able to reach everywhere. So then we call them arterioles. So the arterioles is tiny arteries. Then it branches out even more and it becomes capillaries. So the capillaries are the smallest blood vessels you can find. So it's like these small blood vessels, and they are able to swap gases to have gas exchange happen. Now it gave away all of its oxygen, and it took all the CO2, so now they're called veins. So a tiny vein, like the capillaries come together and form small veins, and the small veins are called venules. And then they come together to make a vein. And then all the veins go towards your heart. Your heart pumps it to your lungs, and then gas exchange happens again, so to swap all this CO2 back for oxygen. Okay, so looking at the heart itself, so the heart has 4 different chambers. We've got atriums and we've got ventricles. So the atriums are the first chambers. So if you look here on this picture, you can see this here is the atrium. So it first goes to the atrium, then to the venule, and then it gets pushed to your lungs. It grabs some oxygen, it comes back to your heart, to the atrium, then to the ventricle, and then it gets pushed out through the rest of your body. Okay, so there's 4 heart chambers: the right atrium and the right ventricle. Then it goes out to your lungs. Then it comes back into your left atrium and then your left ventricle, and then it gets pumped out to the rest of your body. All right. I know it's a lot of confusing words, especially with ventricles and venules and veins and atriums and arteries and everything sounding the same. Atrium, the word atrium basically means the first, when you come into a building, basically the entrance hall to a building is called an atrium. So it's like a big open space right through the doors. So that's why the top chambers of your heart is called atrium. Ventricles are the ones at the bottom. So the ventricles are basically the ones that goes and pushes it either to the lungs or to the rest of your body. All right. So then the next, I think let's do the next one, the digestive system, in a new video. I think we can fit it in. Yeah, let's do it now. Okay, so now we needed the respiratory system for exchanging of gases, breathing in. And then we had the circulatory system moving the gases to the places where they need to go, or taking them away from where they are. Now, the other thing for respiration, we said we need this oxygen for respiration to take place, is we also need starch. We need food. So the parts in food that we need is called nutrients. Okay, so a balanced diet means we're eating enough of the correct nutrients. So it is both correct, so it's the ones that you actually need, and enough of the ones that you actually need. Okay, dehydration is not drinking enough water. And then we get things called enzymes. We spoke about them in a previous video when we looked at lysosomes. Lysosomes has enzymes that breaks down things that is dangerous inside your cell. But the enzymes here also breaks things down. That's what an enzyme does. But the enzymes in your digestive system breaks down the food that you're eating until it's tiny parts that your body can actually use. Starch. So starch is basically, it comes from sugars. And if you've got small sugar pieces and it gets built up into long chains in order to be able to store it properly, then we call that carbohydrates. Carbs, I'm sure you've heard of that. Carbs, carbohydrates, is made up of sugars, and we also get fiber like cellulose, which is basically carbohydrates that you can't digest. All right, then we have protein. Protein comes in anything that comes from animals, so meat, milk, eggs, it all has protein in, and then some vegetables also has protein in, like beans and legumes. Legumes is things like what do you call it now? Lentils and things like that. And peas, lentils and peas. Okay, then we've also got, and we need protein because we're also made of protein. So your body basically takes that protein, digests it with enzymes into tiny pieces of protein that it recombines and rebuilds to become your protein, the protein that your body consists of. And if you could remember from when we did the cells, the things that in your cells that makes your protein is called ribosomes. Okay, then we've got fats. So we also need fats. Fats is not a bad thing, but remember, balanced is enough of the correct amounts of nutrients. So we need enough of the correct fats in order for our body to use. Then we get glucose. So glucose is the science name for sugar. And we get different types of sugar, but glucose is the most basic common one. Okay, vitamins and minerals are also nutrients that we need in order to, for our bodies to function. So here's a couple of minerals. Calcium is essential for bones and teeth. Iron, remember the iron is the hemoglobin in your blood that carries the oxygen. So you need iron in order for you to be able to carry the oxygen in your blood. And then magnesium. So magnesium is used for strong bones and teeth, but also for muscles. So if you don't have enough magnesium, then you get cramps in your muscles. And then we also have sodium. Sodium is a type of salt that your muscles need, but also for your nerves to function. Remember the nerves were those cells that's long and thin, and then it's got looks like roots at the bottom, and a cell thing with the roots, like leafy things at the top that I said looks like a tree. So that's the nerves, and they need sodium. But the most important part of sodium is also to help regulate the amount of water in your blood. So I don't know if you've ever heard of electrolytes. So electrolytes are also types of salts. I'm going to write here electrolytes. So electrolytes and salt goes together. Electrolytes are salt. Salt and water goes together to kind of regulate the amount of water in your blood. All right. That is, so if you've exercised, then you get like those sports drinks like Powerade. I'm not talking about Monster or Red Bull, but Powerade has electrolytes in it, or Energade. So you need to, when you're tired of running and things like that, you need electrolytes with the water that you're drinking so that it can regulate the amount of water in your system. Okay, now this word here, peristalsis. Peristalsis is basically I just wanted to check. It looks like the slide ends here. So peristalsis, it's named after some French guy. And peristalsis is the movements of your muscles that basically expands and contracts to push your food down through your digestive system. So it happens from your throat all the way through your digestive system to move the food forward. So it is movement of muscles. Movement of muscles in the digestive system. Right, now let's look at all the parts. So it's not really in the right order. I'm going to just reorder. Okay, so you first put the food in your mouth, right? Of course. Okay, then in your mouth, you start chewing it. So we've got your teeth. And you've got salivary glands. Salivary glands. So they basically make saliva that helps digest your food. Then you swallow. Remember when we were here, let me just go up. That's why I prefer doing this all in the same video, because it's all in the same, it's interconnected. So remember we said here pharynx is throat, larynx is voice box. So if you swallow the food, let's go back down, it goes to your throat. after your stomach, which is pharynx. Ooh, I don't think I can spell pharynx. Cool, it's correct. Okay, then it goes into your pharynx, and then it gets swallowed through the pipe that connects your pharynx with your stomach is also weirdly spelled esophagus. So that's your esophagus, and that's where we start getting the peristalsis. So peristalsis is the movement of the muscles to push the food down towards your stomach. So now our food is here in our stomach. So in your stomach, you also have enzymes, remember the stuff that breaks things down, and you've got stomach acid that digests the food. Then it moves out from there, and this part here is the first part of your small intestine. But before we get to that, let's just take a quick sidetrack and look at the gallbladder. So the gallbladder is this little green thing here on your liver. So the red one here is your liver, and on top of your, or sort of below your liver, is your gallbladder. So that makes bile, and so the bile also you need for digestion of fats. So that moves down here. This organ you can't really see behind this guy's intestine is the pancreas. The pancreas creates insulin, enzymes. So it creates enzymes that you need for digestion, but it also creates insulin. The enzymes goes to your intestines, but the insulin goes into your blood because that does blood sugar. Now, this bile and these enzymes come together here in a duct. Basically, a duct is just another word for a tube or a pipe, and it comes into your small intestine. So now we're in the small intestine, and in the small intestine is where most of the digestion happens. So, that one says large intestine. Let's just move this one up. Small intestine. So this small intestine is massive, and your food goes through there with peristalsis, and it gets digested. But what also happens is, so we've got digestion. So the other thing that also happens is absorption. So your food gets absorbed into your blood. Then over here at the bottom of your large intestine, that little piece there is called your appendix. Okay, so that's your appendix, and then here is an entrance where your small intestine goes into your large intestine, and the large intestine goes up. So up means, another word for up is ascending. This one here goes basically horizontal to the ground. So we call horizontal, so we call that the transverse colon. Large intestine, another word for large intestine is colon. So the ascending colon, the transverse colon, and in the part that goes down, here that goes down again, that is called the descending colon. All right, and in your colon, we basically have absorption of water and nothing else, because there's nothing else left. Your small intestine took everything it needed. The rest is just water and waste. Stuff we're like, ugh, now we can't use this. Then through your colon, it goes up, ascending, transverse, like transported sideways, and then descending down. And all the time your body's going, I need some water, I need some water. And it takes all the water out until it reaches your rectum, which is the very last little part here, and then out through the anus. So everything we don't want is now outside of our body. Okay, so that is the systems of your body. Well, some of them: digestion, need food for making energy; circulation, moving blood around; and respiratory, need oxygen, don't need CO2, and also for respiration to take place. Alright, that's that for this video, and then in the next one we'll just look at some more vocabulary for body systems.